Well, welcome again to Flame of Truth. We're just thrilled that you have found us today. And I'm especially excited today because we have a group back that was here last week. They're just here in America for a little while, called SNG. They're actually from Latvia. And they're going to be going back, but we have them today. They're going to sing a song called Only Hope. So we have Iveta, who's going to be doing the singing, Maris, who will be accompanying, and Edmonds, who's playing the bass guitar. They're terrific. You're going to enjoy this.
They're the song that inside of my soul. It's the one that I've tried to write over and over again. I'm awake in the infinite cold, but you sing to me over and over and over again. So I lay my hand back down and I lift my hands and pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only hope. Sing to me the song of the stars, of your galaxy dancing and laughing again. When it feels like my dreams are so far, sing to me of the song that you have for me over again. So I lay my hand back down and I lift my hands and pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only hope. I give you my destiny. I'm giving you all of me. I want your symphony, singing all that I am. Off the top of my lungs, I'm giving it all. So I lay my hand back down and I lift my hands and pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only hope.
Wow, wasn't that special? I'm going to have to bring them back over from Latvia and have them be here longer. Anyway, today, wrestling with an issue as part of a summer series here. Are we having fun yet? I think I had preached every weekend someplace, maybe not at my own church, but if I was free from there, I spoke someplace else as a guest, camp meeting somewhere, every week for 2 years. I moved from one church to another. They didn't want me to wait, preached. 2 years. I went and did a wedding at a big hotel here in California called the Ritz-Carlton. And someone offered me, as a little gift for doing the wedding for their children, they would put us up in that hotel, 5-star hotel, right on the Pacific Ocean, Ritz-Carlton. So we were thrilled, never have before, then, or since we'll ever stay in a place like that again. And so it was like the 4th of July here in our country. We had another couple days after that. So we're sitting with these friends in the huge jacuzzi and just having a great time when all of a sudden it hit me. At my home church, which was La Sierra University at that time, they were hosting a prayer summit. I had permission to be gone. It wasn't my program. I wasn't in charge, wasn't having to speak or be responsible, but it was in my building. Maybe I should have been there, supporting, being part of the program. And I began to feel guilt. Here I was sitting in a jacuzzi. Have you ever felt that? While you're relaxing somewhere, somebody is working, somebody is suffering, there are needs, there's people hungry, there's always more to do. And when we're resting or having some play, we feel guilty. You know what I'm talking about? Are we having fun yet? And I have had it happen many times. You go to a ball game, and then your thought hits, I should be working on a sermon. I've gone golfing, and I come back, I'm taking my clubs out, and I don't want anyone to see. Pastor Dan's been out wasting time. How do we handle this? Is there a theology of play that we can come up with, that we can think about? I have had wonderful moments, yes. I've had moments of sitting in a sunset on the beach, campfires. I've played every sport, whitewater rafting, snow skiing. I've done lots of things that were fun. But as I've gotten older, had more responsibility, had bigger churches, more things to do, more people to see, there were long stretches that I would go with nothing. I can remember going to a church picnic, and I was watching my boys when someone said, here, Pastor Dan, can you play? Handed me a mitt. Realized I don't think I'd had a mitt on or had played catch and played a game in 7, 8 years. And I said, how did I let this happen? I used to be a good golfer. Lost most of that. How did I let this happen? Why aren't there more moments? How did I let this life of becoming 70, 80, 100 hours a week after week, become part of defining who I am? I have to be careful. And you have moments and you wake up and you'll say, how nice this is. We went on a cruise. My last church gave us a gift. We got to go on a cruise, and just incredible to sit on a bench and watch the ocean go by. And there's no internet, nothing else you can do, and just enjoy it and say, why have I waited this long to have moments like this? I was eating dinner with a friend of mine who's passed away now, Dr. John Wong. And incredible dinner, incredible. Just met his daughter the other day. And after this incredible dinner, and then 2 kinds of Haagen-Dazs ice cream and it was off the charts. Gorgeous house, beautiful people. And we're getting ready to leave. He said to me, Dan, how many moments in your whole life have you had that were just exquisitely pure joy? Well, I thought, we just had Haagen-Dazs ice cream. That was pretty close right there. And I said, how about you? He said, only 2 or 3. He was 70 years old and didn't live that many more years after that. Too bad. How many moments have we had that were really filled with joy? Tim Hansel, he spoke on our church years ago, but I've read the book, When I Relax, I Feel Guilty. And on the cover and on the back page, he asked some questions. I'm going to get the words right, so I'm just going to read it to you. When was the last time you woke up rested, really rested and exuberant and excited about meeting today? When was the last time you had an experience so undefinably happy that when you tried to explain it to someone, there weren't words enough? When was the last time you caught yourself enjoying life so deeply that you couldn't quite get the smile off your face? Chances are it's been too long. Joy is supposed to be a spiritual fruit. So why are so many Christians convinced that they aren't serving God unless they're exhausted, running here and there, and miserable? Not enough moments that Tony Campolo calls exuberant moments. Standing at the top of Empire State Building, says, in the wind. Just wow. Skiing, water skiing behind a boat with the sunlight on the water. Incredible. I've begun to snow ski again, though I'm much older than I was when I stopped. And I just said, why did I let this go? Some of the things are expensive, yes, I understand. So here was a little theology of play. Don't misunderstand what I mean, but I say play. I don't mean just sports. I don't just mean any one kind of thing. God made us, first of all, not to work, but to enjoy life, to enjoy Him, to enjoy the nature that He had given to us. That's what He did. He never meant for us to be 60, 70, 80 hours a week just working, slaving away. That is all as a result of sin. It was not God's original purpose for us. It was to give us life. And then He adds pleasure everywhere in life. The whole capacity to enjoy and make music, to be able to play with our bodies, able to kick and run. We just watched the World Cup yesterday. My wife is Dutch. We were sorry the Netherlands lost. But just to watch these incredible athletes who can run for 2 hours or more and play and do what they're able to do, and the great athletes. And God has made us capable of this kind of play, to make music, to enjoy, to laugh, to tell jokes, to have humor, to do the arts. These are all signs that came from God. They came from God. The whole idea of the food, why does food have to have pleasure connected to it? It could just be pills and chemicals, just taking chemicals in order to sustain life. No, God adds pleasure to it. So when you go to Cold Stone and get some ice cream or eat some of the great desserts of the world, and just, incredible. That was God. Or the gift of sexuality. God could have had reproduction happen in very sober, without any pleasure involved at all ways. And yet He adds in some of these incredible gifts of pleasure. Maybe the greatest pleasure we know in our world today. The gift of pleasure and sexuality. That's God. It was God's gift for us to be able to play. And of course, originally there was no need for work. He made it set up where things were so perfect that there was nothing you would normally have to do to work. There were no hospitals. We didn't need doctors and nurses. There were no schools. Parents did the teaching. There were no businesses because God provided everything. Most of what we know as work today would never have been a part of life. It would have been all, quotes, play, enjoying life in one way or another. God was going to do it all. And so God made us for what I'm calling joy or play. In the old Westminster Catechism, what then is the chief end of man? Man's whole chief end is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever. That was the whole purpose. Not to work, but to enjoy God. That's what God made us to do. Well, now we live in a world of sin, and there does have to be work. There is consequence, and God has made work good. Work is useful, the Bible says. It is an honor to God. There are needs around the world that we have to do the best we can for. We have to provide for our families. Work is honorable and absolutely good. That's another sermon. The challenge is when work begins to become the best thing. When we begin to swap the values, rather than it be a consequence and a falling away from play, it becomes what we actually are. And it is the best thing. And you are only useful if you are working and productive and achieving and making things happen. And your value is measured by how much you do with your work and how many hours and how long you work and how perfectionistic you are. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a workaholic. These become positive words. And pretty soon we are defined by our work. It becomes the central dominating focus of who we are. The play is incidental and long gaps between it, and we feel guilty at those moments, and we are doing the right thing and the best when we are working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Yes, we need to work to be a blessing to the world, but pretty soon our work becomes who we are, which is why our identity gets tied up in this. If we get criticized for our work, that's who we are. I can't put it on the shelf and say, that's not me, that's me you're talking about. And if our work feels at risk, we are in trauma. Or if you lose your job, as many have around the world, you lose your whole sense of self and who you are. Very difficult. Never the way God intended it to be. And so somewhere, many of us still struggle with this whole Puritan work ethic, that you are what you do at work, and that is when you're doing right, and we feel guilty if we play. but God made us to play. Number 2, heaven is going to be more like play than work. I'm not sure how much sports we're going to play in heaven. You know, how are we going to have competition? Will anyone feel bad because they lost a game? How can you have a perfect pitcher pitching against a perfect batter? What would happen? What kind of golf would it be if every shot was a hole-in-one and every round was 18? You got 18 holes, 18 shots, and everyone else did too. So the whole area of sports, we're going to have to find out exactly how that will work in heaven. But we believe is that all the feelings we get from the best sports today will be by far replaced with something far more magnificent when we get to heaven. Heaven will feel more like play than it will feel like work. Heaven is going to feel like what Adam and Eve felt when they were first created, where their senses were more keen and more alive. You hear better, you see better, the colors are brighter, all the sounds are perfect, without the distortions of sin in our environment that we have today. That's what heaven is going to be like. And all our full lives will be enjoying God and enjoying the people that we have been missing for all these years, without the distraction and the interruption of work. Our greatest pleasures here are tastes of what heaven will be all the time, every minute of every day. That's what heaven will be like. And so when you go skiing or have ice cream or make love, remember that those are sacraments and tastes of what heaven will be. It'll be more like play. All the metaphors in the Bible are like play words, you know, banquet and joy and pleasure and parties. In Psalm 16:11 is my verse for today. You have made known to me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. Eternal pleasures. That's what heaven will be. There won't be much work to do. No garbage. Nobody sick. I doubt if even I preach, Jesus will be the preacher every week. Everything that we need will be provided from God. We won't go to the mall. There'll be no stores, no production, no factories. It's all given to us as a gift from God. So that's the ideal world. Workaholics are not going to be happy there. They're going to be healed of that by the time we get to heaven. Well, next, number 3, play is a gift. It's an incredible gift that God has given to us, that we were able to play. It is in the heart of God to give us this gift of being able to play. It is not something we should feel guilty for. It was God's idea. He made us to be able to do this, and it was the heart of what He wanted us to do. So play is a gift. And even though the world is filled with needs that we need to do something about, and we have to work to care for our families, and work is often very, very hard, God never meant for us to have to work 70, 80, 100 hours a week without the side of play. Play is a gift from God, and we should enjoy them and do that. It is God's gift to us to be able to play games and to laugh and to make humor and to make love and to travel and to play sports and do all the things that come under play, and to rest and to walk on a beach and to enjoy sunsets and to be able to turn the volume up in the music in your car and to have beautiful food and banquets and parties together. Those are all part of the plan of God, and we should see them as gifts from God. And to walk barefoot on the sand. So a few key verses in case you have forgotten and only remember the work verses. Ecclesiastes 5, verse 19. Moreover, when God gives any man wealth and possessions, and enables him to enjoy them, to accept his lot and be happy in his work, this is a gift of God. John 10:10, I am come that they may have life and life more abundantly. 1 Timothy 6, verse 17, put your hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. That's what God wants us to do with our theology of play. And so just make sure that your picture of God is big enough to have a God who gives play as a gift. I was sitting at the Willow Creek Church in Chicago where Bill Hybels was preaching at a ministerial workshop, and I remember him telling after 1991 where he had a sort of an emotional work breakdown, burnout, whatever you want to call it, where he could not work at the pace he had been working anymore. He wrote a famous article in Leadership magazine that was called Reading Your Gauges. You think about the gauges in an airplane or in a hospital or in your car, and you read the gauges to find out how things are wherever they are. And he said, you know, you've got your physical gauge and your spiritual gauge and your emotional gauge. And he crashed. And he looked at his physical gauge, and was he working out? Yes. Was he exercising? He was doing pretty good with that part. What about your spiritual gauge? And was he having a devotional time? Was he journaling? Was he spending some quiet time with God? Yes. Some of us need to look at that. But evidently where he was short in what he called the emotional gauge. It was all work. Even while he was working out, he was thinking about getting material for the sermon. 2 big sermons a week, preaching multiple times. But he had cut out all the things that restored your soul. He had stopped racing motorcycles. He had stopped warring sailboat racing. He had stopped. He was working all the time, speaking, flying all over the world. And he had no recovery time, no play time, no restoring his soul. And he had to redo his life and get a team of people that shared the preaching load. And he took 7 weeks off to go to the coast of Michigan and have a little cabin and restore his soul. He got a sailboat, got back into sailboat racing and riding his motorcycle, and just began to get his life back in balance. Play is a gift, and we need it in our lives. Number 4, play is a better metaphor for the religious life than work. Think about this a little bit. God uses play as a metaphor for heaven. He uses the best moments we have down here as tastes of what heaven will be. So therefore, if we don't play, God will not be able to use those moments of play to draw us to heaven and make us hungry for heaven. So heaven is like this. Heaven is these moments when we're at the beach, hanging out with our favorite people and watching the sun go down, or a night at a banquet with somebody, or just a moment we were whitewater rafting, or going down a ski slope, or on a cruise, or on a vacation, or just a half hour with a Cold Stone ice cream. And they say, heaven is like this. If you cut all those out, then there aren't enough moments that become sacraments where God can say, heaven's going to be like this, and make you long for heaven. And you lose your desire and your longing and your homesickness for heaven. But to go a little farther than that, play is a better metaphor for the spiritual life than work. Here we put the whole idea of play and grace a little bit more together. In the religious life, we no longer are being saved by our works. We're saved by grace. And so therefore, because play and not working, play is like grace. And so play becomes a metaphor for the religious life, for the spiritual life. The Bible uses these kinds of words all the way through the Bible. Religious life is freedom and joy and peace and rest. The normal Christian life is not working and following the rules and producing and being productive and measuring up. It is more like freedom and rest and peace and joy and play. It is a metaphor for the way it ought to be. Psalm 43 verse 41, that God was his joy and his delight. God doesn't want our relationship with him to be characterized by work. And so finally we get down to the end of this. Play equals grace. When we play, by definition, we stop working and we play. And when we play, it means that we have to just put our work aside. I've had to leave stuff covering with your desk. And you have to decide, I will not be defined by that work anymore. I will leave that there. I can live with some things not completed. I can live with some things not done, with some things on my to-do list. And I'm just going to walk away and leave it there. There are some people that I haven't had time to visit, some phone calls I haven't had a chance to make. Some things are just not going to be done, and I'm going to go play. That's grace. I'm going to forgive myself. And that's what we do with grace. I'm going to live with not being perfect yet. I'm going to live the fact that I have not measured up in every way. There are some things I just haven't got the victory over yet. And I am going to live with that for now. I am going to rest in grace. And so play becomes the best metaphor for grace. And if we don't play, if it's only work, then we have no analogy for grace. And of course, the Sabbath becomes the heart of this. When the Sabbath is when we Shabbat, we rest from our work. and we come and we experience grace and we play, which is why Sabbath has to be a delight. It cannot be just more work. And then too much of the time it is for me as a pastor. I've got to go and be at these places, and it's work I enjoy, people I love to be with. But Sabbath at its best merges these two ideas of grace and play, where we have pleasure with our special people, where we go to the beach and we rest in the sunsets and the campfires and hanging out with our best friends. And it becomes a metaphor for heaven, a relationship with God, where we rest and we enjoy Jesus forever. And so I just want to encourage you, as I have to preach this to myself, and I have many times not lived by this own message, to remember to play, to sometimes walk away from our work and refuse to be defined by our work and being productive and by the list and by the piles of what we have to do and what people pay us to do and what people give us notoriety and publicity for. And say, no, I will not be defined by that. I will build into my life rhythms and rituals of play and breaks and taking time with the people who love you and you love, to spend time with the sunsets and to walk barefoot on the beach and to go for an ice cream cone, to save up your money to go on a cruise for a week or go do something special. Go, whatever restores your emotional heart and soul, if it's racing motorcycles or a sailboat or golfing or some sport, whatever it is that restores your soul and gives you life and gives you a taste of heaven and a taste of enjoying God. It is a gift from God, a God who wants you to enjoy Him forever. And one of these days we will walk through the gates of heaven and we will never have to work again. And we will play and enjoy God forever.